Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Build. This is episode 1.21, and today we'll be discussing the topic, Do Things That Scare You? 3 reasons to step outside of your comfort zone. Today we'll be featuring a trip to Estonia, LSIT fellows, and saying hi to strangers, as well as this young man here who looks terrified, but is completely fine and is going to grow up to be a great person. So my name is Brittany Hernandez. You can call me the beet emoji or peanut or brittle as you'd like. I'm from San Diego, California, but I'm based in London now. I'm a veteran of the United States Coast Guard, where I served on active duty for 4 years as a boatswain's mate, second class petty officer. I'm also a lawyer who practiced intellectual property and entertainment law from California. I'm the founder and CEO of Kramayam Law and Kramayam Kamai LLC. I have a master's degree with distinction in international film business from the University of Exeter and the London Film School. I later became the business development and partner engagement executive for a legal tech startup called Vala, based out of Scotland. I later became a Gavel expert, where I practiced no-code and low-code development with Giglaw. I still do a little bit of that here and there now, but a lot of my time is spent as the global ambassador to law schools for Gavel, formerly Documate, where I am also the program director and senior instructor for something we're going to talk about today, which is the Law Students in Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellowship, which I ran for over 12 weeks. We had 83 plus enrollees, and we had a hackathon at the end, and it was an incredible opportunity and experience, which we're sure to repeat in the future. I'm also the founder, course creator, and senior instructor of Kramayam Academy, where we have Gavel certification courses in Go Full Page, Softer and Airtable, and more. I'm also the creator and host of the Lightning Talks for Legal Innovators series in partnership with Gavel. So that's going to be coming up actually tomorrow if you'd like to join us. And then I'm also the creator of this particular series called the Wednesday Build. I also created a free interactive digital magazine called Code Word Hex, which is built on Gavel. And I'm the creator and editor of the Tuesday Forecast newsletter. I'm the founder of Kramayam Retreats, which is where I have different female founders and high achievers from around the world come together and kind of learn from each other, grow, and connect. So that's a little bit about me. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. As I mentioned, we're going to be discussing the topic, Do Things That Scare You? 3 reasons to step outside of your comfort zone. And I know this sounds very generic, but I'm going to make this really specific to 3 specific reasons. And I'm going to feature, as I mentioned, a trip to Estonia, law students and legal tech fellows, and saying hi to strangers. So I'm actually going to do these in a slightly different order than you see here. I'm going to start with the LSIT fellows, which is the 3 reasons are your impact on others. You never know the impact that you have. The second one is personal growth, which is going to be around the trip to Estonia for me personally. And then expansion of opportunities, which is around saying hi to strangers or networking, which can be scary. So the first one I wanted to go into is impact on others, or this idea of the law students and legal tech fellows. And the reason I specifically point this one out is it's a recent and relevant example where I was afraid to put on this program, one, because it was a massive undertaking in the sense that it went on for over 12 weeks. So there was 12 weeks of content that I created myself. So that made it to where I had to come up with the plan. I had to come up with the content. I had to film the content, edit the content, get the content out to everyone, do all of the marketing. So it was going to be a massive undertaking. And so I was confident in the idea and, confident that I could deliver, but also a little bit scared of whether I was going to be good enough, whether I'm the right person for this, whether anyone's going to show up, whether anyone's going to care, whether anyone's going to participate in the hackathon competition, all of these different fears. And because that is something where you're having to let go of a little bit of control, which is something that's really hard for me. which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, is that I have a hard time letting go of control and having other people need to participate in what I'm doing in order for it to be a success. When you're used to kind of controlling all of the outcomes and only having yourself to rely on, you have a sense of comfort because you're able to control all of the pieces of the puzzle that are coming together. So that comes with a lot of project-based and independent work. However, when you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and giving yourself a chance to rely on others to kind of show up for you and to do their part of what you're trying to experience, you can actually have a greater impact on other people. So in this particular example, I had to overcome my fear of pitching the idea to Dorna, overcome my fear of putting it together. And I actually remember specifically trying to get the syllabus and information, sort of like one pager, organized and ready. And I had just like stressed about it all day long because I was committing before I started on the content what the outline of the course is going to be. And so you almost have that fear of failure already from the start, that you're, what if I want to change something? What if this isn't the right thing? What if this is not what people are expecting? What if? So there are so many different questions that can try to hold you back from doing something that's a little bit scary to you right from the start. So in this particular example, though, I did feel that it was important, not only from a Gavel initiative perspective, but also from the perspective of, I want the people who are in law school right now to know that there are opportunities available for them in legal technology. And I felt that very personally for myself from being someone who went to law school, became a lawyer, got a master's degree, and afterwards felt like I had a really hard time getting a job because I wanted to be able to still be mobile. So I wanted to live in London instead of going back to California. And that was not really that conducive to the traditional legal pathway of becoming an associate, getting to partner, and so on. So in my particular circumstance, I wanted to show people who are in my position or kind of similar to me in personality or sentiment or in desire, or kind of this idea of autonomy and location freedom and all these different things, that there are opportunities for you to still put your legal expertise to good use, but through the different means, in this way more of from a developer side, and how you can harness technology to increase your practice. So in this particular one, with this impact on other people, I wanted to first quickly show you an overview of what they learned in the fellowship, which I've kind of gone through in more depth in a previous video, but just so that it can set you up for the context of the impact that it had on particular people. So this was the curriculum. So we started in January, and then we went all the way until recently in May. So we went over lots of different discussions about expectations around what is access to justice, what are the expectations of you as a lawyer in this kind of new legal landscape where you're expected to have more empathy. You're also expected to have more knowledge outside of substantive law matters. So let's say, for example, instead of only needing to know sort of like torts and contract law, you also are expected now to know legal technology. And so there's different pieces here. Then I went into things that are a little bit more related to software development. So I started to teach people about agile methodology, what is an MVP, how to build lean. And then we got into the actual pieces of the puzzle, which are the actual legal tech pieces themselves, things like Gavel, for example. But I also introduced them to no-code technology, which I think you can kind of separate out kind of a branding or marketing perspective versus a use case perspective. So with that being said, I think that you can use any type of no-code technology in legal context, and then it becomes legal technology but whether it's branded as that or if that's the target market or not, because you're able to use your mind to see how things can fit together using these different technologies. So in this particular case, we have Gavel, Notion, and Softer. So I had the students build actual websites in the first week. So it was the frameworks for their personal interactive resumes, as well as their own personal websites. And then also how to use Notion as a kind of companion editor, you could say, and just for kind of more quickness. So we kind of went through that. And throughout this, I'm not going to go through every single week we did, but essentially what I did was I walked them through step by step how to create this website that has, let me just get out of here for a second, how to build a website that has links out, as well as a app marketplace where someone could come in here, for example, and purchase actually, we're going to use this other test. So they could search for something, let's say based on housing, for example, or they can actually go in and purchase access to, let's say, a particular workflow. So this is a Stripe integration here for Gavel that makes it to where, and then this is Softer. I made this with Softer. So it's kind of how to put these little pieces together to create something that a client could interact with, and that you could productize your legal services by allowing the person to interact with these different tools in a way that's more consumable for the end user, which is your client. So in this case, for example, we created an eligibility for a specially adapted housing grant application and show them how to do that. So also in the first week, they built out their interactive resumes. So they look like this, where they have kind of a toggle-like experience where somebody can kind of toggle through. They also have the opportunity to get a customized PDF and cover of the cover letter and resume. I also show them how to put in a video, for example, and then they can kind of interact with this way. So this is just a quick example of what we built in the first week. And then also I show them how to create images with Canva, and also how to use Thinkific to create courses and products and events, communities, and so on. So this was the community aspect. And then we also had a course that people could pre-order, for example. So each of the students were able to create this kind of flow and companion kind of Softer, Thinkific, Gavel, Notion, Airtable kind of piece together. So with that, a lot of people started to feel that this is something that they could do in the future as a career, that they really felt and fell in love with the process of creating applications using no-code tools like Gavel, for example. So it's been really fun for me to see what overcoming my own fears of this idea of, for example, feeling like I wasn't necessarily like good enough, or feeling like I was scared that maybe nobody would come, or that nobody would like it, or I would teach the wrong things, or like all of these different personal fears, and overcoming those and just having confidence in that particular project, just having a strong feeling that this is going to work and be important for someone, actually made it to where at the end of the day, during the hackathon, we had winners who actually had real tangible benefits from this experience. Not only was it impactful on their lives and their career trajectories, but it was also impactful in their financial situation, because they were able to win by building something using this tool that they were able to access for free as students. So because they just were able to understand how to utilize these different tools and how to piece them together and what the possibilities were, that made it to where, in this case, they were able to build something that made it to where they won $1,000 for 3 of the prizes. And then also we had some swag prizes. So from an impact perspective, not only on yourself, but for other people, it's important for you to be able to overcome your fears about imposter syndrome or whether something will work or not. And I think approaching something with a bit of curiosity and from a perspective of service, I think are 2 really important pieces to having impact on others and to overcoming your own fears when you're trying to create something of value in the world with your own expertise is to focus on curiosity at the approach stage, saying, for example, I wonder what will happen if I put my all into this particular program and whether it might impact other people. I would never know, though, if I don't even try. And so in this case, we were able to have an impact on people to the point that some people said it completely changed their lives, completely changed their career choices. And I just wanted to give a quick example of that, of Max. Max actually won 2 prizes. So this is Max Rosado. He is a recent graduate of New York Law School. And in our Hackathon Awards Day, he found out that he won for most sophisticated build for a copyright infringement checker app that he built using Gavel. And he also won a tie for first place for the most creative marketing campaign. So in this clip, he is thanking the judges for choosing his application, and he's just saying a little bit more about how it has impacted his career in the future.
Be part of this program, and thank you to Brittany for this whole program. I joined really late, so I kind of did all of this within like a month, and this has really changed my life. Just as you said, Brittany, this is what I want to do moving forward. And so it's just been an amazing opportunity to be involved and find a new passion in something like this. So again, yeah, thank you to everybody.
Thank you and congratulations. So basically he says, this has impacted my life and I want to do this as a career now. And he's so grateful for the opportunity that this has given him to find a new passion in legal technology. So I just found that that was really important to kind of highlight, that we have these people who, he came in and actually was able to just dominate by just going through the entire curriculum from start to finish from March 27th until May 1st, I believe. Yeah. So he was able to turn everything in by the deadlines and just absolutely win one of the 3 prizes, for actually 2 of the 4 prizes, you could say, during the hackathon competition. So I think that really shows, for example, the impact we can have on other people when we overcome our personal fears of doing something that scares us. So that's the number one reason I would say is, and also the idea of approaching with some curiosity at the start, and then also coming from a place of service and adding value in order to kind of have the right mindset and approach to whatever it is you're creating and whatever fear you're trying to overcome in order to do that. So that's a little bit for this kind of first piece, and the first reason to step outside of your comfort zone is that impact on others. I also wanted to quickly note 2 examples here. Is one was a validation, you get kind of some early validation of ideas. So one of the things I was nervous about was actually starting the Wednesday build, and also starting the code word hex. So let me just check out if I can find this really quick. But there was a post I made, my first one back in January, that was my first code word hex post, or my first Wednesday build post. And I remember just getting some really early helpful feedback and validation of this, because I was nervous to start it, and I was scared that it was going to be maybe a waste of time. I just wasn't sure. So it was nice to, as I mentioned, get some feedback from others. Let me see if I can find where it is back here. But it was just good to get some validation from other people where they said, keep it up. This is great. I love your content. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one. So this is actually, I don't know, this is just really helpful, because this was actually my first Wednesday build episode 1.1 from January 4th. And it was my intention to just consistently, as consistently as I could, to post twice a week, or to create content twice a week, one for Code Word Hex, one for the Wednesday build, and to have those pieces come together to kind of help kind of create awareness about what I'm talking about, what I'm doing, to also practice public speaking and to practice organizing events, practice being consistent with content, build up my kind of content library and base, become a little bit of an authority on different topics, and so on. So in my head, I had trust in the process and in the project, but it always helps. And it was super helpful in this case because I was like, I don't know if this is useful to anyone or not, but I think it might be. So I overcame my fear that it might be pointless and that it would be a waste of time in order to kind of put it out there just in case it would be useful to people. And to get this early validation from Deng and from Gianfranco, it was really helpful. And actually, I met him later on, which was really cool. And he's awesome. He's doing some really cool things for his clients. But he said, so for the first comment I got was, I appreciated the discussion on the power of curiosity and wonder to drive innovation and creativity in no-code, low-code development. Keep up the thought awakening content, which is so nice. So thank you to him for that. And then also Gianfranco said, love your content, keep it up. Thanks for sharing. And so I just think that when we validate each other, when we kind of give each other this kind of, let me just see if I think that those were the two main things that were super helpful for me. Yeah, so those are the comments that really kind of made it to where I was able to continue on and to have faith that somebody's watching and to have faith that it's useful. And then the second one was, there are two, so in the Slack community, I won't pull this up because there's a lot of people's like names and stuff and kind of content in there, but the Gavel Slack community is really active. And sometimes I'll post in there and have no idea whether people are seeing anything or whether it's useful at all. And there were two instances where something that I was sharing in show and tell helped two separate people. And it kind of gave me that confidence to continue to help and kind of share my thoughts about something. So in the first instance, there was somebody who kind of was asking a question, and they tagged me in it to say, like, I've been watching these videos that she's been doing. I have a question about this thing. And so I got to help that person kind of go through and kind of understand how they might be able to do what it is they were trying to do. And provide and offer more support. And then secondly, more recently, somebody reached out to me privately and was saying, you know, I was watching your videos in show and tell. I love what you're doing. Would it be possible for us to have a consultation? So you just honestly, you never know who's watching, when, or how it might help them or what they're discovering. And so I think at the end of the day, it's really important for us to just kind of grow on, like in the sense that it's important to understand that you overcoming your fears is really important in somebody else's ability to grow, and their ability to have your ability to have an impact on their lives is something that is really, really valuable, not only for yourself, but also for obviously other people. So I just wanted to share a couple of those examples with you. The other example I wanted to share with you is around this trip to Estonia. So I am going to Tallinn, Estonia for the first time ever tomorrow, Thursday, May 25th, for a 2-day conference, which is going to be Future Law 2023, which is going to be the 26th and the 27th. And then I come back on the 28th. So I'm really, really excited for this particular conference. And the reason I put it in this particular context of the Wednesday Build is that I am so terrified of this because I'm doing 3 different things. I'm doing a panel, I'm doing a keynote, and I'm doing a workshop. So those are a lot of different things to need to do. And I feel like I'm very excited, and excitement can often be confused with nervousness and vice versa. But when this was actually kind of the impetus for this particular conversation today around doing things that scare you, because I was spending the past couple of weeks trying to put together my presentations to try to, I was just pulling my hair out, trying to figure out how to package in 15 minutes everything that I want to say about the importance of legal tech education, and boil down in 30 minutes how you can best utilize tools to productize your legal services, and how to kind of shape the conversation for my piece of the panel, which will be one of three. So let's say I have 10 minus a couple of minutes for questions. So let's say I have 5 or 6 minutes to talk about how you can approach or what opportunities there are for new professions in the legal industry. So the challenge of a conference like this and having these 3 pieces to need to do is monumental, and I am scared, but at the same time, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone because I've actually become a little bit more introverted than in the past. So in the past, I was way more extroverted. I used to dance on stage, and I used to do field hockey in a big arena kind of stadium. I used to wrestle and do basketball. So I was used to kind of people watching me doing something for while I was also a rower. So I was in lots of sports. I did dance. But once I went into law school and had to kind of put my head down and focus and read and spend a lot of time alone, I actually became more introverted, I would say. So it's been an adjustment for me, especially after COVID, because I graduated and went straight into the pandemic. And my 2020 graduation from law school was on Zoom. So that kind of transition into somebody who was a little bit more comfortable reading a book in the library than kind of being on stage, it's been a little bit scary for me to accept this challenge of going on stage as a keynote on the main stage and coming up with and memorizing or going over different slides, preparing them, and trying to translate a message that would be impactful to other people. And to do that in a way that properly represents the company that I'm representing there, which is Gavel. And so I feel a lot of pressure to do well, not only because I'm, representing a company outside of myself, I am standing and representing myself personally in front of more than 300 people and kind of thinking about their judgments of me and then also my own judgments of myself. So all of these pieces put together make it to where I'm afraid. And I think it's okay to say I'm scared, but at the same time to still step out and do the thing that we're afraid of. So I'm actually feeling like a little bit emotional about this because I'm proud of myself for saying yes. I'm proud of myself for not shying away from the challenge of doing this. And I'm excited for the opportunity to get to share what I've learned with other people and to hopefully impact them in a way that, opens up their opportunities for themselves, their companies, and for their clients. So I think that this kind of trip to Estonia is that for me. And kind of how I got this position or the ability to do this kind of feeds into the third piece, which is saying hi to strangers or networking. So we've already covered impact on others. We've covered personal growth as being the second reason to step out of your comfort zone and the reason to do things that scare you. And the third one is expansion of opportunities for yourself and for others. So when it comes to networking is a great opportunity for not only for you to connect with other like-minded people and people who are in your space who might be able to help each other, but also to actually tangibly lead to, if you're in some kind of sales position, to conversions, or also just from turning a conversation into a tangible opportunity like a speaking engagement, for example. So in my particular case, I can understand that it can be scary and you can be a little bit uncertain of how best to approach talking to someone who you don't know, talking to a stranger. But I think that there's always a way in. There's always a way to talk to someone that is interested in similar things that you're interested in. So there's always going to be something that they've done or something that you've both done that you can kind of find common ground, which makes things a little less scary because it's almost like you're talking to someone you already know. Kind of like saying, oh, that thing that you did, I did that too. And then kind of making that bridge and finding that connection there. So in the particular case of how I was able to be invited to do the Future Law Conference, that actually comes down to some networking that I did during a presentation a couple of months ago. So at the time, I had seen a an event by Hermosa for how to invest in legal tech startups. And basically my method was to just kind of go through the Zoom participants list and find anyone who had a first and last name on there that I could find on LinkedIn who it looked like they were around side of either angel investment or startups or entrepreneurship or legal tech or whatever else. So I just went through, connected with everyone on there, and I just sent a modified version of the same message, which was basically, hey, I saw that you are on this event. I'm here too. I love what they're saying about this particular thing. Would love to connect and follow your work. So I just keep it really short and simple. I make it super relevant to something that's happening right then that is common ground between two people, me and that person. So that makes saying hi to strangers a little bit less scary and produces massive results. So in this particular case, Holger was one of the people who was on the call, and that made it to where the person was able to see my feed and the different posts that I made. So that made it to where he saw a post about the Law Students in Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellowship, which led him to recommend me as a speaker to the other person who was organizing the event, who reached out and asked about whether or not I would be interested in coming. So that's kind of how networking can turn into saying hi to a stranger, even though you might be afraid to, and it can be weird and scary and awkward because you don't know what to say. And so from an online perspective, I think it's a lot easier. There's like a lot more of a way in that doesn't feel rude if you want to say hi to someone or connect with them. So you can say, I saw your podcast where you talked about this thing. I'm really interested in this right now. Would love to connect. Maybe if you have some time for a virtual coffee, would love to have a 15-minute chat and see what you're up to. And so on. And then the other piece is when you're in person, which can be a little bit harder, but can definitely be worthwhile. So for example, I recently went to a conference, or it was really just a couple-hour launch event last week when I was in Edinburgh. So I got to go to the LawTech UK launch event, which was really exciting because this is a combination of Legal Geek and Codebase coming together to create a really exciting LawTech UK future, where there are a lot of different pieces that are coming together. So in the case of in-person events, there can be people that you would really like to talk to, but they're usually like engaged with someone else. They're not usually just standing there waiting for you to come talk to them, and they're turning everyone away until you come up and speak to them. So the way that it can generally work is you just sort of have to insert yourself into someone else's conversation politely, and allow that to be sort of less scary for yourself. So for me, it can also be scary because I don't want to be rude. So when somebody's talking to someone, and I also don't want to come off as like overly eager to talk to someone. So this kind of interpersonal dynamics of different people can be really interesting to navigate, especially for someone who has kind of gone back and forth between extroversion and introversion. Especially when also we haven't had that much time or opportunity to connect as people in person after COVID, or during and after COVID. And so with this particular case though, I think that there's kind of two pieces here. One is that for the people that you did connect with in person, kind of following through and finding your way in to talk to them. So you have to physically move yourself so that you can actually go and talk to that person and find an entry point. So I usually do something like, because they're usually talking to someone else, I just want to like kind of get in their space. And so I usually try to politely say, do you mind if I join you? And I usually will kind of say something that helps them kind of save me, which is not really a technique, but more just like an actual fact, which is sort of like, I don't have any friends here yet. Would you mind if I joined you two? Or just kind of saying like, Yeah, just that's usually kind of what I say is like, hi, I don't have any friends here yet, or I'm, whatever else, or the group that I was talking to just disbanded and I'm alone. Can I please join your group? So you're just kind of acknowledging the awkwardness of somebody just coming into your conversation. But standing there awkwardly and waiting for them to engage you is way more awkward. So overcome the fear of being rude and overcome the fear of kind of everyone is feeling the same thing that you're feeling. So you're feeling nervous about talking to other people. They're feeling nervous about talking to other people too, even though we're all grown-ups. And I saw it too. And I was there and I saw people kind of standing alone, looking around, holding a drink, not knowing what to do. So you can also engage those people to make them feel less afraid and less lonely. But anyway, the second part of this is to kind of go into the point of overcoming the fear of talking to someone you didn't get a chance to speak to when you were there. So in the particular case of last week where I was at the Law Tech UK event, there was somebody that I wanted to speak to because I loved their question. I thought they sounded really smart and interesting and what they were doing was really interesting. But I didn't get a chance to speak with them while they were at the conference or the event because they were engaged with other people and then I couldn't find them later. But I did know kind of their first name and where they worked. So I just sort of did a little bit of research on LinkedIn to try to find this person sort of on the web and was able to find her and reached out to her and said, overcame my fear of saying like, hey, I know we didn't talk or you don't know me from anyone, but we were at the same thing. Like, would you mind if I connected with you, etc. So I usually want my connections to actually mean something to both of us. So in this particular case too, that was the case, which was that I just kind of said, hey, I loved your question. Would it be possible for us to maybe, since I didn't get to actually meet you, would it be possible for us to have a virtual chat or whatever else? And that actually led to us being able to find out that she's actually going to be down in London in June for the next Legal Geek event. So we're going to be able to actually get a virtual coffee in person. So I got to turn something that was kind of nothing. She didn't know me and I didn't really know her, but I wanted to speak with her into a conversation where we're actually going to have the opportunity to have a human connection in person, which is going to be awesome. So I'm really excited for that. So to recap, we have this idea of doing things that scare you, 3 reasons to step outside of your comfort zone, with the 3 reasons being the impact you can have on others that sometimes you don't even realize or don't come to fruition until much later on. Personal growth. So this idea of doing things like, for example, accepting speaking engagements, even if you're scared to do that. Or if you're out of practice and you need to practice, or you're afraid you're going to forget something or whatever else, there's somebody in that audience who needs to hear you. So it's important for you to overcome your fear in order to be there for that person who needs to hear you. And then the third one is expansion of opportunities through networking, both online and in person. So I know this is a little bit shorter of a presentation today. So I'm just going to go over a few announcements and then wrap up here. So the first of which is this Wednesday build is live. We're live recording basically every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So you're welcome to join me again next week. Then I also have Code Word Hacks come out every Tuesday. So that's usually more practical. So that's going to be kind of doing a deeper dive into a specific aspect of Gavel or Softer, or Airtable, or some other tool. And then I have the Tuesday Forecast, which is a newsletter about community events that goes out once a week. And then if you'd like to engage with our certification courses that I created with Megan Sawtell, you can access those on the CRMAMacademy.com website. Also for different courses on Softer and Airtable, an official certification course in Go Full Page, and more to come. And then CRMAM community. So for example, you can access the CRMAM global community by going into any of our different courses, and you'll automatically be added. And then the Gavel community on Slack is really active, so I highly recommend that you join us there as well. Finally, I just wanted to say thank you so much for those of you that are with me live, and for anyone watching the recording, thanks for taking the time. And what we're going to be talking about next week on Wednesday, the 31st of May at 10 a.m. is going to be Habits make the heart grow fonder, consistent creation, and Big Mo. And Big Mo comes from The Compound Effect, which is a book that I highly recommend. So we're just going to talk about kind of building an audience and how you can build momentum. So feel free to connect with me over LinkedIn or via email at brittany@chromium.pro, or if you'd like to reach out to me for anything relating to my role at Gavel as the Global Ambassador to Law Schools, you can email me at brittany@gavel.io. Thank you so much again for your time and attention, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.